So this is a quick video on commercial photography, looking specifically at product photography. So commercial photography is photography used to advertise or sell a business or product. It is a broad category and appears everywhere. Magazines are filled with adverts, billboards, packaging, brochures, leaflets, posters, images on the sides of buses and trains and public transport. They all come under the category of commercial photography. So commercial photography is essentially photography of a business or a product or a service for the purpose of selling or marketing that business or service. Product photography is a form of commercial photography, but it's looking specifically at advertising or marketing a particular product. So as a product photographer, product photography is typically, the images are usually really sharp, high quality, and they seek to tell a story. So as a product photographer, your goal is not just to take a pretty picture of a product, but to sell that product by telling a story about it to the audience. There are 6 key concepts you need to think about in order to do this when taking photographs of products, and these are listed here: quality and equipment, lighting, storytelling, scene design, copy space, and color and contrast, and we'll look at them now. So quality and equipment. As I said, typically product photography is very sharp. The images are high quality because you're selling a product, so you don't want to be trying to use dodgy pixelated images to try and sell a high quality product. Like this watch here relies on the message that you have to think about the message that you're trying to sell. So the message about this watch is that it's sharp, it's neat, it's clean, it's pristine, it's shiny. So having dodgy, blurry photos are counterintuitive to the message that you're trying to sell about that watch. So having high quality images is obviously a big part of product photography. But having said that, we don't all have high-end cameras, we don't all have high-end studio lighting equipment and access to studios or have the training to be able to do this sort of thing. So that being said, depending on, so if you are obviously in a situation where you're working as a product photographer, then yeah, you ideally want to be setting yourself up with the best quality and equipment that you can buy. But for the purpose of what we're doing, basically you just need to ensure that you have the best quality equipment available to you. So if you knowing that you have to have a high quality image, then don't just use, don't be happy with the worst, whatever you've got access to. Try your hardest to go out of your way to increase the quality of your image in some way. I just realized I spelled equipment wrong. Did I? EQU, yeah. So yeah, that didn't really sum that up that well. So essentially what I'm trying to say is, you know that you have to have a high quality image. So do whatever you can to get the best quality image that you can with the equipment that you have. If you don't have high-end camera equipment, use whatever you've got available to you. But don't just settle for just a quick, dodgy, out-of-focus phone photo. It has to be, you have to take the time and the effort to make sure that you do whatever you can to increase the quality of your image. And there are ways to do that. A little bit of research goes a long way. So lighting is probably one of the most important parts of any photography, really, but for product photography. So if we look at this example here, that's just a little demonstration of what a product photographer studio might look like. You know, you've got your product, you're selling a pot plant or pot plants, whatever, and then you've got a background set up with this white roller background thing that slides down, and you take the photo on that. So ideally the photo would be here, the photographer would be here. This is where you'd be standing with your tripod, and you're shooting towards there with that as white as the background. Then they've got a few lights set up around the place. So again, a lot of us don't have access to this sort of lighting equipment. So basically the idea is, if you know that something like this is the sort of setup that you would strive for if you had access to this equipment. How can you then makeshift something similar that has the same effect? So lighting on a base level, the bigger the light, the smaller the light, how close the light is, how far away the light is, or the angle that the light is shining on that subject from will affect the shape of the shadows, the softness of the light. So changing these variables will change how the light and the shadows look in the image. So on a base level, use the lights, the above lights, the lights in your room. Use torches, use your phone light. Get a piece of tracing paper. Tracing papers are like really thin baking paper. Hold it up and shine a torch through it. That works in a similar way to a big softbox like this. Experiment with different lighting types. Experiment having it close to the subject, far away from the subject, on a high angle, on a low angle. Experimenting with the lighting is the best way to see what works best for the subject. I mean, there are typical rules and conventions that you would use for certain product types, but to save us the effort of going through each one of those, which would just take forever, the best thing to do is just experiment. Look at examples, look at behind the scenes videos and photos like this, and try your best to recreate things with the equipment available to you. So yeah, lighting, besides that, the lighting itself is actually used to contribute to telling that story and to creating a sense of something that relates to the message or the idea of the product. So here, the lighting has been used in a way to create these stark contrast and difference between the shade and the light, which creates this sort of framing sort of effect around the product that we've got here. So the light has been used in a creative way, and that's the way that's created is by using different light shapes and then blocking off. If you've got a light, you know, like a light shining towards the product, like say this is my product, I've got a light shining towards it. You might block off some of that light to create a sharp line like this on the wall. Different angles create different effects, from dark shadows to light, softer shadows. So, I mean, a lot of this is photoshopped, don't get me wrong, but experimenting with the shape of the light and the angle of the light can go a long way towards creating an interesting looking product photo. The next one we're going to look at is storytelling. So I've mentioned it a little bit before, but a lot of product photography and a lot of good product photography will seek to deliver a message or tell a story about the product. So it's not just, as I said, it's not just a pretty photo of a can of Coke. It's trying to sell that can of Coke. So to sell that can of Coke, it has to sell a message about the can of Coke. So it's not just, here, this can of Coke is 80 cents. It's cheap. That's not a strong enough message to sell the can of Coke. To sell the can of Coke, you needed to tap into a message like it's refreshing, or it's going to give you energy, or it's bubbly. These sorts of ideas. So the idea or the message or the story being told about the can of Coke in this particular image here with the water bubbles and the splashing would be that it's fresh, it's refreshing. On a hot day, you can slam down this ice cold can of Coke and feel energetic. Red is like an energetic color. So there's all these sort of hidden messages and ideas that are put into this image to try and deliver a message to sell it to the audience. Same as this one here. I'm assuming these are like body lotions, body wash, body scrubs, and they're like natural products that have, you know, orange and walnuts and whatever else in them. So like clearly that's the message that's being said there, that these are natural products made from natural ingredients, and here the message is being delivered loud and clear. And even the use of the color yellow as well, like a really bright, bold, happy, energetic color full of life, and, you know, these sorts of psychological ideas that are being like tied towards the message of the product. So storytelling is another big part of product photography. In line with the storytelling part is the scene design. So setting up what is appearing in the frame or in the scene. and what is not, and how that contributes to that story you're trying to tell. So here, we have all these parts included in the scene or the setting. Similarly with this photo here. So what is being included in that scene and how it contributes to that story. So this one's pretty straightforward. We're looking at a can of some sort of tea product. So we've got obviously the cup of tea and the tea itself, and then we've got some of the products or the ingredients or flavors that go into that tea. So we've got star anise, cinnamon, whatever else. So it's basically telling us this message, the story, that this is a natural product. It's tea. It's made from these real ingredients. The colors tell us it's warm, it's homely, it's a winter thing. So the message, the way the scene is designed is very closely tied in with the story that it's trying to tell and the message that it's trying to deliver. Same with this one here. This is a perfume, men's perfume. The name of the product is Dune, like a sand dune. We've got very sandy sort of desert colors, a bright sort of light shining in the back, almost like a sun. We've got the sand sort of shaped like a sand dune here. So we've just got this message being told that this product is like relating to. So Dune is the name of the product. It's in the dune. We're thinking of ideas like being out in the desert and heat and still smelling fresh, wearing this cologne. So the way the scene has been designed, like this is obviously done, like if you were to see how they were taking this photo, you would see that most likely they've got some sort of a baking, like an oven tray with the sand in it or something like that, and they've got a white background, but they've used a yellow light to create that. So this isn't taken in the desert. This is taken in a studio, in a 4x4 room with studio lights and that sort of thing. So it's about working out the scene you want to create, the story you want to tell, and then trying to work out how you can create it by, using various props and tools to create that same effect of making this product look like it's in the desert. So that's the scene design. The next, second to last thing is copy space. So in marketing and journalism and like the media fields, we talk about copy as being like the written text that is included in a design like this. So when you're doing product photography, quite typically it's used for magazines or billboards or things like that, where text needs to be included into the photo. So if this photo was to be used for a billboard, you'd need to be leaving space so that the designer can put text around the space of the image. Like a comment across the bottom here, like new Apple Watch, blah 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 blah. Or this one here, like this product is natural, made from fresh ingredients, blah 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 blah. So like there has to be room around the product for the text to be included. That's just another important part of product photography. So the last thing I want to talk about is color and contrast. So these are strong elements. These elements are strongly represented in product photography. Color, I'll talk about color first, because color, for 2 points. Color is eye-catchy, it's bold, it like catches, like this image here, it catches your attention immediately because it's so bright and bold and stands out. And like that's the point, is it's meant to sell, it's meant to draw the viewer's eye and draw their eye straight to that advertisement, to the product, and try and sell that product. So the color has to stand out and be bold. Additionally to that, color has, I won't go into it too much, but there's color theory, and different colors have color psychological associated ideas related to them. So like we have subconsciously we relate green to go and red to stop and blue to happiness or sadness and green to nature and things like that. So there are certain psychological cues that we subconsciously all, for the most part, recognize, and advertisers use those colors in the design of their products and the advertising of their products. So being aware of that in product photography is important. And contrast is the last thing I want to talk about. Contrast in the absence of color with this image here, this one here, contrast is the key to creating that the bold effect that this image has. So the lighting has been used in a certain way to create a sharp difference between the shadow and the light parts of the image. That creates a bold, that contrast just creates a really bold effect that makes this product stand out. So without the use of color like this image here, there might be reasons why you don't want to use so much color. Or if, for instance, this product here that I'm pointing at with my cursor, it's not a colorful product. I've actually got the same one here, if you can see it. It's black and gray and white. So how do you make a dull colored product look more interesting? Then you have to use lighting and make a contrasty effect in that way. So color for the psychological cues and the fact that it stands out, and contrast to make something stand out and be bold. So those are the 6 key concepts of commercial photography, and I'll just quickly zip through them again. So we've got quality of equipment. Use the best quality equipment you have, if you make the most out of what you've got. Lighting, be creative, try and find ways to use lighting and experiment with lighting to best sell your best present your product. Storytelling, your product, when you're selling a product, you have to deliver a message about that product. Work out what the message is, who you're delivering that message is to, who the audience, what you're trying to say about this product, and then work out how you're going to send that message, get that message across, whether it be including things in the scene, designing the scene in a certain way, or using other things like lighting and props to create that effect where that message is being sent across. Don't forget to leave copy space for text, because a lot of images will appear in magazines and billboards. And finally, have an awareness of the colors that you're using and how color can impact or affect the audience's opinion of or like psychological relationship to a piece of advertising, a marketing content or a product, and also contrast as well, and how you utilize lighting and backgrounds and other things in the scene to create contrast that makes your product stand out. So many of these concepts are considered in some of the other videos that we talk about, where we talk about different fields of photography, but this is how they relate to commercial photography. But feel free to research these concepts further in the other fields where they are mentioned. Thank you.